The chair recognizes Senator Nelson to speak on the bill.
Thank you, Mr. President. I want to speak in support of House Bill 2. Senator Watson, you just talked about the emotions. Without a doubt, in my 20 years here in the Texas Senate, this is the most emotional issue we deal with. The emotional issues of ending a life, of women's health, of women's rights. I'd like to talk very briefly about what this bill actually does. Let's get back to the original presentation that Senator Hager made. It prohibits terminating the life of an unborn child after 5 months of development, with an important exception of fetal abnormalities. It raises the standards of abortion facilities, and it ensures that there are protocols in place to save the life of a woman seeking an abortion if something goes wrong. That's what this bill does. Several of you mentioned during our discussions today that you were not able to attend our Senate Committee on Health and Human Services hearing, our 16-hour hearing. And I was so grateful to the members of the committee and several members who weren't on the committee who came. Many stayed the entire time and listened to the debate. But for those of you who weren't able to be there, I thought it might be helpful if I reported to everyone on some of the issues that were raised during that 16-hour-long hearing. First of all, a lot of discussion today about the issue of fetal pain. And we had some expert opinions on fetal pain. And let me just tell you right here, I consider myself an expert on the unborn child because I think Senator Vanderpute's probably the only other person in this room that can actually say that you've experienced it. And I've experienced it 5 times. And in my expert opinion, a 5-month-old unborn child does experience pain. But don't take my opinion. Let me tell you about, we had 4 invited witnesses at that hearing. 2 in favor of the bill, 2 in opposition. One of those in opposition was a physician who talked about the issue of fetal pain. And he was asked many questions, and I asked him, could he say for certain that a 20-week-old child cannot feel pain? And his answer was no. He couldn't say for certain that a 5-month-old preborn child cannot feel pain. Members, there should be no question that after 5 months of development, Senator Zaffirini held up a picture. This is a child. You can see them yawn. We have the technology today to see their movements, and they stretch, and I believe they feel pain. Senator Whitmire, I hear you often talk about putting a face on it. And we're able today to put a face on a 5-month-old in the womb child. And it's the face of a real live person. And I believe that real live person feels pain. That was an area of discussion. I believe that child has the right to live. And I believe that a majority of Texans believe that it is wrong to end the life of a 5-month-old unborn child. I also believe that if a woman does make her constitutionally protected decision to terminate a pregnancy, we have the responsibility to ensure that she is in a safe, medically appropriate environment. That's our job. It may seem irrelevant to opponents whether these facilities have a door wide enough for an EMS or their doctor has admitting privileges, but I can assure you those issues would be very relevant to that woman whose life could be in danger. They are relevant to ensuring that those horrific practices that we've heard about of doctors like Gosnell are never allowed to happen again. And they sure aren't going to happen in Texas. Another point that was made, actually by a woman wearing orange at our hearing this week. We need more men to take personal responsibility on this issue. And she said in much more direct terms than I would to you that it's not fair for women to have to bear this burden alone. Fathers need to step up to the plate, and she is right. I was one who actually found myself agreeing with people who were sitting there in orange shirts a lot, and of course blue shirts too. Another issue that was raised was a message that I have long been advocating for, and that is the need to do a better job in the area of prevention. Those of you on my committee have heard me say that time and time again. Prevention is the solution. We must invest in family planning. We've got to make sure that abortion is not used as a birth control method. And I said it yesterday, and I will say it here again to all of you. Our cuts were too deep session before last in the area of women's health and family planning. But I want to tell everybody what a good job this body did during regular session to rectify that. We had a work group of our finance committee on Article 2, majority of women I might mention, but Senator Huffman, Senator Zaffirini, myself, Dr. Duell, Senator Patrick. I called in our Commissioner of Health, Commissioner Janik, and I asked Commissioner Janik, what if, if money was absolutely if the sky was the limit, how much funding can our provider network handle to ensure that low-income women have access to contraception, to breast and cervical cancer screenings, and other preventive health measures? We've got to make sure we've got the provider network to provide those services. But I said, how much money will it take? And he said, $100 million. And we established that as our #1 goal. We will get you what it takes. And this body did that. 170,000 additional women will be able to access family planning, cancer screenings, and other preventive health services because of what this body did, and I am thankful. And we've got more to do. Governor Dewhurst, I am asking you to assign our Senate's Health and Human Services Committee with an interim charge that addresses #1 issue, women's health. We care about women's health, and we've got more to do. We owe it to everyone, the blue shirts and the orange shirts, who came before our hearings, 16 hours worth of testimony, and that was something that all of them asked for us to roll up our sleeves, and we will do that.
Done.
Governor. Good. We heard 13 hours of public testimony, 357 witnesses. In all, 3,861 people came here to register their positions on this bill, which I'm told, by the way, Senator Seliger, I'm told that that is a greater response than what we saw at every redistricting hearing over the last 2 years combined. That reflects the fact that we're dealing with passionate, deeply held beliefs. But I also believe it demonstrates that Texans care about life and about women. There was a moment at our hearing, and if those members who were there can share with you, we probably saw it better from where we were sitting than the cameras and the people on the other side, but there were 2 women, one in orange and one in blue, sitting there, both of them sharing very personal stories about deeply traumatic events, and their experiences brought them before us with different positions on the issue. One of them was crying, and the other one, in different color, reached over and held her hand and held it during the rest of her testimony. And that is a moment that will stick with me for a long time. There was pain voiced on every side of this issue. I mean, there was Senator Uristi, the stories about rape and about incest. There was pain from those who had had abortions. There was pain from those who had abortions forced on them. There was pain from those who have lost loved ones to abortion. And there was also pain from those unborn children, although they didn't have a voice to speak at our hearing. We need to stop the pain. I believe in women's health. I believe in prevention. That won't change. Neither will my commitment to human life. Every life is precious. Every life is worth something. Every life deserves to be protected and cherished. There is a clear choice before us in this vote tonight. Do we keep the relaxed standards that are in place to protect women? Do we forego safeguards that will save a woman's life if something goes wrong? Do we ignore the evidence that at 20 weeks we have a child who can feel? Or do we choose life? And I choose life. Thank you, Mr. President.